In a small Bavarian village, a man claims to have seen the horrors of a bleak future with startling clarity. What would you do if you knew that the shadows of a prophecy were marking the present day? Could we be witnessing the realization of visions once dismissed as fantasy? Alois IRLMAIER, a seer born in 1894, predicted events that, at the time, seemed impossible, but resonate with eerie accuracy today. His visions, focused on the horror of World War III, spanned nations such as Italy, France, Spain, Mexico, and Colombia, revealing scenarios of chaos that defy our understanding. But what led him to be considered one of the greatest visionaries of his time? If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. As a child, Alois showed unique abilities that set him apart from others. His ability to detect groundwater, thanks to a strange sensation in his hands, earned him recognition in his community of Freilassing. Later, in 1928, these abilities evolved into prophetic visions, where he began to describe events that would shape the course of humanity. During World War II, this talent made him a crucial figure, predicting exact locations of bombings and guiding families to their missing loved ones. His impact did not go unnoticed, but it was not without controversy either. In 1947, he was accused of fraud and charlatanism, facing a trial that divided opinion. While some witnesses challenged the authenticity of his visions, others fervently defended his gifts, providing accounts of accuracy that left even the court speechless. His acquittal, supported by the lack of concrete evidence, reinforced his status as a man who seemed to dwell between the earthly and the supernatural. One of the most disconcerting moments of this judicial process occurred when Alois described in incredible detail the judge's wife, whom he had never met. This fact, combined with the numerous testimonies about his accuracy, ended up consolidating his legacy as a seer whose influence transcended epochs and frontiers. Today, the echoes of his prophecies, including the enigmatic 3 days of darkness, feel more relevant than ever. The signs he described decades ago seem to intertwine with current events, leaving an indelible imprint on our contemporary history. Alois IRLMAIER'S visions advanced toward a terrifying scenario in the heart of Europe. With unsettling precision, he describes the onset of a global conflict that shakes entire nations. In his prophecies, the chaos begins with an unexpected event in the Balkans, where a key figure in international politics is brutally assassinated. This act, shrouded in betrayals and conspiracies, unleashes a series of events that the world cannot stop. We all face moments when the future seems uncertain and answers seem unattainable. In those moments, discovering what fate has in store for us can make all the difference. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook delves into his prophecies and offers a glimpse of what lies ahead. It is available for free in the anchored commentary. Grab it now before editions run out. In the midst of this tragedy, Alois narrates how the armed forces mobilize with devastating speed. Troops from the east cross the Danube, invading Germany with military precision. Cities such as Regensburg witness a desperate evacuation. Entire families abandon their homes, forming endless lines of vehicles on overcrowded roads. In Frankfurt, the traces of destruction are inescapable, with smoke-covered skies and buildings reduced to rubble. But Alois' visions are not only limited to military movements. He details a sinister plot in which 2 men, unknown to each other, conspire to end the life of a high command. One, dark-skinned and short, and the other, taller, lighter-haired, execute their plan under a cloak of secrecy in the Balkans. This final act of betrayal becomes the catalyst for even greater chaos. As the armies deploy, the industrial regions of the Ruhr become prime targets. The fighting is fierce, and the European countryside is filled with desolation. In the midst of this war, Alois pauses to watch as 3 European cities suffer different fates. One is submerged in a swamp, another is swallowed by the waters, and the third, though destroyed, defies the fury of the elements. Paris, the city of light, burns at the hands of its own citizens, who, consumed by despair, destroy what once symbolized hope. In Italy, the turmoil takes on a religious tone. Alois describes a clash of faith that culminates in the bloodshed of church leaders. The Pope, in a desperate act to survive, leaves the Vatican incognito, promising to return when peace is restored. These visions, laced with horror and symbolism, offer a bleak portrait of a future that, though uncertain, seems ever closer. In the midst of the most devastating events of the war, the world seems to be tipping into an abyss of no return. Alois Irlmaier describes in detail the fall of a strange object from the sky, dropped into the sea by a pilot. The impact generates an unusual reaction in the ocean, whose waters rise as a solid mass, swallowing entire lands in its path. The coasts of northern Europe face an unimaginable threat. Entire islands disappear, and water levels reach catastrophic proportions. England is no exception, suffering the consequences of this mysterious event. A glowing crucifix appears in the sky, marked by visible wounds, and he gazes at it not once, but 3 times at different times. This symbol not only intensifies the sense of solemnity between the events described, but seems to herald the shift into an even darker phase. The Russian armies, hitherto advancing with unrelenting force, face an unexpected twist. A natural disaster forces them to retreat northward. Alois's visions focus on the last great battle, fought near Cologne, Germany, where destruction and chaos reach their peak. At times like this, having clear guidance can be invaluable. Remember that you can download the ebook in the first commentary posted before the available copies run out. But the terror doesn't stop there. Alois begins to speak of the dreaded 3 days of darkness, a period that is not limited to Europe, but engulfs the entire world. During those days, the earth will be shaken by thunderstorms, earthquakes, and a darkness so deep that the very air will become poisonous. He describes how only blessed candles will offer light, while windows must be sealed to prevent deadly air from entering homes. The population is faced with a struggle for survival in extreme conditions, where even drinking water becomes unusable. The devastation is so complete that rivers dry up, livestock perish, and people exposed to the outdoors die almost immediately. He details how the death toll during those days will exceed the combined total of the 2 world wars. After the nightmare, however, the world slowly begins to rise again. Winds disperse the toxic clouds eastward, and the people who survive emerge on a transformed planet. The suffering does not end immediately. In Russia, revolution and civil war lead to a period of anarchy. The streets are littered with corpses, and political leaders choose to take their own lives in an attempt to atone for their sins. But in the midst of this crisis, Alois glimpses a spiritual rebirth. Hymns resound in the distance, crosses are once again venerated, and faith becomes a refuge for troubled hearts. The intensity of the geographical changes during his prophecies transcends the imaginable. With the impact of the mysterious object that fell into the sea, the tectonic plates begin to shift unpredictably. This movement generates not only rising sea levels, but also the appearance of new volcanoes in regions previously considered geologically stable. In the Mediterranean, Unusual seismic activity causes small islands to disappear, while new formations emerge as unsettling reminders of the force of nature. In Scandinavia, fjords, once symbols of stability and natural beauty, are transformed into zones of risk. ALOIS details how the waters of the North Sea are advancing inland, submerging entire coastal villages and creating a mass exodus to higher ground. Meanwhile, in South America, the Andes Mountains experience massive landslides, blocking rivers and forming temporary lakes that quickly overflow, wiping out entire communities in their path. The climatic impact also becomes evident in areas previously considered safe. Extreme weather becomes the new normal, as he explains a dramatic change in weather patterns. Unusually strong hurricanes hit the Caribbean and Southeast Asia, while Europe faces unseasonal snowstorms, crippling cities and destroying key infrastructure. Crops, already scarce due to war, are lost in large quantities, leading to a global food crisis. Understanding the past and preparing for the future is essential in uncertain times. Don't forget that the e-book is available to you, but units are limited. Find it in the first commentary posted. Wildlife is also undergoing drastic changes. In areas affected by natural disasters, entire species disappear in a matter of days, while others, more resilient, migrate to territories that were previously uninhabitable for them. This phenomenon creates a disruption in ecosystems, triggering imbalances that affect everything from crop pollination to the food chain in the oceans. ALOIS carefully notices how these changes not only change the Earth's landscape, but also have a huge effect on people's minds. Constant uncertainty and the struggle for survival create tensions between communities, ushering in an era of distrust and isolation. Yet even in the midst of this devastation, there are those who organize to document these events, hoping to preserve the memory of what happened for future generations. In the heart of the chaos, the surviving communities face a radical change in their social and spiritual structures. The devastation leaves many without homes or resources, forcing them to form temporary settlements in areas considered safe. These makeshift camps, though precarious, become centers of cultural and spiritual exchange, where people begin to rebuild their lives from the ruins. Ceremonies and rituals emerge as essential tools for maintaining social cohesion. In small groups, survivors light candles and recite collective prayers for strength and guidance. Images of saints and religious figures adorn the shelters, while ancient hymns echo like an echo of hope among the makeshift tents. ALOIS describes how in these sacred spaces new traditions take shape, some based on ancient religious precepts, others born of the need to understand the incomprehensible. The concept of property also undergoes a drastic transformation. In a world where material goods are scarce, communities adopt a system of direct exchange. Food, water and medicine become the main forms of currency, while manual labor takes on renewed value. Skills once considered common, such as carpentry or farming, now determine the status of individuals in the new society. He observes how this change fosters mutual dependence, although it is not without tensions and conflicts. In the spiritual realm, his visions show a massive return to introspection and faith. Religious books, preserved as relics, become guides for coping with adversity, and teachings on humility and sacrifice take on new meaning. In several regions, people who had never shown an interest in the spiritual experience revelations that lead them to adopt a life of devotion and service. Stories of survival and redemption are shared around makeshift campfires, strengthening the bonds between groups. Although tensions between communities do not disappear, these narratives of resilience begin to form a common fabric of hope. The need to rebuild, not only physically but also emotionally, drives local leaders to promote cooperation and mutual understanding, laying the groundwork for a profoundly transformed society. The opportunity to find answers is at your fingertips. Take advantage now to download the ebook, available as a special giveaway in the first pinned comment. Only a few copies left. As survivors begin to rebuild their lives, nature also begins a surprising process of regeneration. Regions devastated by disasters show signs of recovery, with vegetation emerging from the ruins. Thanks to a reborn climate and an unanticipated biological balance, he explains, once dry fields become productive. Farming communities are reborn, led by those with inherited knowledge of cultivation and soil management, vital to ensure subsistence. Permanent settlements emerge in strategic locations, many in areas once considered remote or uninhabitable. Small villages are transformed into community centers where resources are distributed equitably, and new generations work to establish sustainable systems of production and consumption. Markets reappear, but not as we know them. They are spaces where the exchange of goods and services prevails over currency, strengthening cooperation between groups. In this process, local leadership plays a crucial role. ALOIS details how previously unknown figures emerge as guides, standing out not for their strength or wealth, but for their ability to bring people together and foster resilience. These figures promote the teaching of practical skills, such as building efficient shelters and implementing simple but effective technologies that use renewable, natural resources. Spiritual life also takes on new meaning at this stage of reconstruction. The new community's religious festivities, which are now centered around thankfulness and shared knowledge, become a normal part of life. Small sanctuaries, built with local materials, are erected and function as both prayer spaces and centers for community decision-making. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us continue to create valuable content, consider giving us an super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. ALOIS mentions a remarkable shift in human priorities. The old ambitions of power and material accumulation are replaced by a collective desire for balance and coexistence. The transition isn't easy, but the new order brings with it a revitalized sense of purpose and an immense reverence for nature for the generations to come. His vision highlights how these reconstructed societies, though small and modest, achieve an unprecedented level of harmony. Simple innovations such as water harvesting systems and integrated farming methods become pillars of this new era, ushering in a period of peace and prosperity that defines the rebirth of humanity.